was just last night that the president and his coronavirus team laid out a phased system to start reopening the country. It called for 3 tiers of reopening, each of which gets progressively more open, and each of which is not supposed to start until after 14 days of falling numbers of COVID-like and flu-like illnesses. It was also just last night that the president made this promise.
Governors will be empowered to tailor an approach that meets the diverse circumstances of their own states. If they need to remain closed, we will allow them to do that.
But then today came the tweets, the president calling to liberate Minnesota, liberate Michigan, and liberate Virginia, also saying the Second Amendment is under siege. I'm joined now by James Rappaport, former chair of the State Republican Committee here in Massachusetts, now director of the New Boston Fund, and Cynthia Dill, an attorney and former Democratic state senator from Maine. Welcome to both of you. 2 completely divergent states. We did this on purpose. We've got Maine, a little state on the East Coast, and then, of course, California, which takes up the entire West Coast. So, Jim, I'm going to start with you. The president and his team laid out their plans to reopen the country last night, most of which sounded very rational, sane. It was well presented. It wasn't belabored. And then today, the president almost negates his reasonable presentation by shooting out those tweets. What did you make of the plan, and what did you think of what he did today?
Well, I've done a lot of Zoom calls over the course of the last month or so, and today happened to be on with 2 from folks in Europe, one from Sweden and one from Italy, and markedly different responses to the COVID virus pandemic. And as I've been in Florida and California for the last 5 weeks, I haven't been back in Massachusetts. And virtually everyone I talk to at every level is saying, let us get back to work. This is nuts. And so the plan that they're talking about provides that. And, I am never going to defend or castigate Trump for his statements because it is who he is. And I'm really going to be looking at the results. The fact is that we need to get people back to work. People, are going crazy, and the mental health adverse impact of telling people they got to stay in their homes. And in some places, they're saying they're going to stay until June. To me, it's crazy.
Cynthia, what was your reaction to the president's presentation? And just tell us a little about what's happening in Maine. How bad are the numbers there, and what's it doing to your economy?
Well, Maine, as you know, is a large rural state, and we have very different challenges than some of these high density urban areas that we've been reading about, such as New Jersey, New York. Our numbers, we have about 1,500 cases, and only 27 deaths is the most recent number. So in that regard, we're very fortunate. In terms of the state's reaction, the approval ratings of our governor, Janet Mills, a Democrat, have been going up. People polled are generally satisfied with the precautions that have been set forth. We're under an order that has been extended to May 15th, stay at home. My response to the president's guidelines is that it's very smart politically on his part. It's obvious the administration does not have a strategy, and so he's passing the buck to the states, which makes sense.
Except for the states want that. And Jim, one of the things that he talked about being on the telephone with these senators last night, and apparently he was really listening to them. And almost to a one, they said the problem with this is that the federal government hasn't rolled out a testing plan. Not that the federal government is in the business of testing, but giving money to the states, to the governors, so that they can set up these. I mean, some of them, the hospital systems have done it, but just to have a system where everybody can do it, and it's going to take money. Should the president and should the feds be jumping in on that?
Well, one, it's not only going to take, it's going to also take time on the testing. And when you look at what is in fact happening, for example, in New York, Cuomo is basically saying we're over the worst, and the expectations we had, we weren't even close to it, and now they're moving their respirators out to other parts of the country. I think that what you're looking at right now is that folks really, they do want to get back to work, even in California, which is not a compact state like New York or even New Jersey. It's very spread out. It's very suburban. The number of deaths in California, which is, by far the largest state in the country, Florida, which is the third largest state in the country, and I was there for 3.5 weeks. They have markedly, between the two of them, they have like maybe 1,500 deaths total, and virtually all of them are elderly. We really do have a sense where people, again, going back to, they just want to get back to work.
The states that President Trump tweeted about, Virginia, Michigan, Minnesota, they too, like Jim said, have fairly small numbers, unlike Massachusetts. I think Minnesota is only a couple million people smaller than Massachusetts, and their numbers are way, way below ours, both in terms of contracting the illness and deaths. But he's suggesting that somehow if you open up these states, that he's encouraging states, in other words, that have small numbers like yours, just to go ahead and open it up.
Yeah, I've got all the numbers right here, and when you're looking at Minnesota, for example, is down like about number 25. They have 111, 111 deaths. California, again, which is the largest state, has 973. Michigan has 2,000, but again, they're also very centralized, primarily around the greater Detroit area. And look, we're a republic. We have 51 jurisdictions, and these kinds of decisions as to when to open up should, in fact, be made by the governors with the help, assistance, and guidance of the federal government. And as far as testing, we can't even get Pelosi to give the money to small businesses so that they can continue to make the loans. The SBA has another $250 billion worth of loans which have been approved but unfunded, and would really help these small businesses survive. Because at the end of this, if there aren't jobs and if there aren't, these businesses can't reopen, and what's going to matter?
Yeah. So Cynthia, I was talking to you about the president's tweets. How do people there react to that? It's like, you just told us that the governors, and your governor, as you said, Janet Mills, is popular there. She's going to open it when she feels it's the safe thing to do. Well,
people outside the media beltways don't pay attention to the president's tweets as much as I think you and I do. It's just not something that people who are working, they're just not following the tweets. But I think what we see is the governors of New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine are forming a regional response that meets the unique characteristics of our economy. You see some intrastate collaboration in the Midwest as well as on the West Coast. It makes sense. What the president did is a good thing, but I think it's obvious to me that it's not for not only humanitarian reasons and scientific reasons, but also for political reasons. The highest hit states are run by Democratic governors, and now he's saying it's up to you. There's a big unknown, and he's now also passing it on, which I think makes
the three states that he did focus on in those tweets happen to be states which have had significant overreach. The governor of Michigan, who was playing to get onto the VP list, grossly overreached with some of the...
our governor has done similar things. Anyway, James Rappaport.
Not to the same extent.
Cynthia Dill, I got to run now. Thanks so much for joining us. Polar opposites. Thanks so much.